You're listening to Seattle Real Estate Podcast.
Hey everybody, I'm Sean Reynolds, the owner of Summit Properties Northwest, Reynolds and Kline Appraisal, and your host of this episode of the Seattle Real Estate Podcast. The state of Washington just hit the milestone of 1,000 deaths that are attributed to the coronavirus. And in this podcast, I am basically calling nonsense on the fact that we are still shut down. I find it abominable that we have businesses that are closed due to 1,000 deaths in our state. That's just crazy to me. Now, granted, I'm a small business owner and I've got a lot on the line, but I know a ton of other small business owners who are feeling the real impact of this. And so this podcast, if you are in the position where you want to stay home and stay safe and we're all in this together and make cookies with your kids, I'm all for that. Take yourselves out of the equation, but let the rest of us go back to work. So that's kind of where I'm at, and I'm going to look at some of the numbers here that basically call BS on the fact that we ever shut down in the first place and why there's no reason we should still be shut down now. And there's no reason that some businesses are picked to open up, some businesses aren't. There's no rhyme or reason to this, and I'm going to run through the data. So if you are not in a position where you think that we should be reopening, you might want to not listen to this podcast. You might not want to watch it on YouTube. So fair warning. All right. So a lot of my thoughts and feelings are, I've been a small business owner now for 27 years. So when I was 24, I bought Reynolds and Kline Appraisal. And I've struggled through the years to make that business go. And I've struggled with Summit Properties Northwest to make that business go. And it takes a tremendous amount of effort, blood, sweat, and tears to keep businesses going, especially when you go through the Great Recession of 2008, 2009. And I had the little extra magic sauce in there of a really nasty divorce. Either one of those things, a Great Recession or a nasty divorce when you're self-employed, can take you down. But I got through it, and I'm out on the other end, and we're still, I'm still in business doing stuff, and I'm an employer. And a lot of the people that I hear from that say, we need to stay home and we need to stay safe and we're all in this together. You've never run a business. If you look at the people who are saying that, they typically are not small business owners because they know there's just no validity to that statement. And the science and the data that my state, Washington, is basing these decisions on just flat isn't there. We've got a death case of 1,001. That does not qualify as a real pandemic, not even close. We've got a ton of other, and I realize that's only in a couple of months, but that doesn't really qualify as anything. 1,000 people died. And we know the books are cooked on the corona deaths. So if somebody dies and they have comorbidity, they've got a couple of other things going on. Maybe they've got hypertension, maybe they had a heart attack, and yet we think they probably had some COVID-19 symptoms. Doctors are allowed to basically state, yep, that's a coronavirus death, because they get paid more money at the hospitals for that. And we know that the hospitals are absolutely struggling because they've furloughed about half their doctors and staff. And you've got hospitals that entire wings are empty right now because normal people aren't going in because they're too afraid of getting the coronavirus by going to the hospital where other people are going that have the coronavirus. And one of the things that drives me crazy about the way that this shutdown went is that at the beginning, we didn't really know what the coronavirus is all about. Right? We just didn't know. We didn't know how it impacted people. Now we know that it basically takes out the elderly and people who are already impacted, whether it's they're obese, whether it's hypertension, whether it's whatever, some disease, whatever. But it's not taking out healthy people. For the most part, you can always, everybody's got that story. Well, I heard of this one guy, he was only 18 and he went down and man, he struggled for 3 weeks and he was really sick. Everybody's got that one story, but it's not an across the board thing. If you look at the statistics, it basically takes out old people and people who are impacted already. That's the bottom line. There's just, you can't argue the data otherwise. So do we shut down the economy? And here in Washington, do we shut down a multi-billion dollar economy because we had 1,000 people die in the course of a couple of months? And if you look at that realistically, going back to, hey, let's chalk that guy, he got hit by a bus, but he wheezed at the end. So we're going to chalk that one up to the coronavirus because we think, well, he could have had it. We want to get some more money. That's a broad oversimplification. And I'm kind of saying that in jest. But how many of the numbers of the 1,001 deaths that we have here in the state of Washington, how many of those have they cooked the books? Is it half? Are there maybe 500 deaths that are legit to coronavirus? Do you shut an economy the size of Washington down over 500 deaths? I don't think so. No. And in other states, they've opened up, and are they getting some more virus cases? Yeah. But is it killing just thousands and thousands of people? No, it never has. Worldwide, we've got 319,000 deaths. In the U.S., we've got 90,000 deaths. So if you look at those numbers in the United States, how many of those numbers are just cooked? Like, is the actual death rate, when you take away the other stuff people have going on, is that more like 45,000? Is it half? Is it a third? Is it like 30,000? That puts it more in line with the flu, doesn't it? Because I hear all this stuff, but I don't really know anybody that's had it other than my aunt and uncle, and they're in their 70s. My uncle felt terrible for about 10 days, but then he bounced back right back. My aunt basically was asymptomatic. She felt tired for a day in Hawaii, and that was it. So we've got a lot going on, and there's a lot of talking about the data, but the science and the data don't support shutting an economy down. 1,000 people dead in Washington state doesn't count. That doesn't make any sense at all. And so I'm going to go through a whole bunch of other things that are causing death. But my main point is the longer you string out small business throughout this shutdown, the more those businesses are going to die. And that in turn is going to cause people to die in real life. You've got small businesses struggling. Small businesses only have a cash burn for so long. And I know a lot of people want to say, well, you've got unemployment. That unemployment's only going to go for so long, and then those people are not going to have jobs because the small business can't support it. Now, the PPP loans, they're out there. Yep, but that only goes for 8 weeks. That's not going to do much when the economy goes back full tilt and we're operating at 50% capacity. Or in the cases of restaurants, they operate at 50% capacity, but in reality, people are scared, so they're only operating at 25% capacity. So the numbers just don't jive here. You can't have the economy shut down much longer. It's go time. You got to let people go back to work. And what I've kind of harped on time after time after time in these podcasts is that take care of those who might be in harm's way. Take care of your elderly. If you've got them working in the workforce, which I do, and not elderly, but in an age demographic that could be impacted, have them work from home if they can. And if they can't, figure something out. If you got people that are younger but are impacted somehow, take care of them. Figure it out. Get them out of the way of harm and let the rest of us go back to work. Because not having the option to go back to work, over 1,000 deaths in a big state, that makes no sense at all. And this really slow release of some businesses and, oh, hey, you can go do soft martial arts. You can go exploring, you can go to the park, but you really should wear a mask outside. No, that's not going to work. I understand if you want to make us wear a mask going into a store. All right. Okay. Or let it be up to the stores. Hey, you can decide whether you want to let people in like Costco does. And that's fine. I can wear a mask for a little bit. But outside, I'm not wearing a mask. That's not going to happen. And if you are needing something in your life and you don't have it, like the gym, go out there and find it. They are available. If you need a haircut, go find it. It's out there. It's happening. There's a lot of business and industry that's running. And it's because this is nonsense. 1,000 deaths. That doesn't count. So let's check into what some of the other death tolls are in the state of Washington. And on an annual basis, the state of Washington in 2017 had 57,000 deaths. In 2018, 56,000 deaths. So on average, we have about 155 people die a day. And here's some of the death statistics. And I just chose some interesting ones that I thought, all right, these are ones people can relate to. So drug-induced, that would be, the opioid crisis. That's a big one. In 2018, you had 1,336 people die. And I understand these are for an entire year, and the coronavirus is only for a couple of months. But the death toll on the coronavirus is going down dramatically, and I really believe those books are cooked because hospitals need the money, and a lot of times the stuff I'm hearing does not make sense. So you got drug-induced, 1,336 deaths a year. Do we stop the economy for that? No, we don't. Alcohol, that's a good one. Directly attributable deaths to alcohol. 1,178 in 2018, 1,148 in 2017. So that's going up. What do you want to bet that goes way up due to the shutdown? People are drinking themselves silly. They almost have to get through this. So ridiculous. Suicide, that one's going to go way up, right? So you got 1,254 people a year in Washington dying from suicide. In 2017, you had 1,292. I bet you that goes to 2,500, 2,000, 2,500. I was watching the Joe Rogan show, and he was talking to somebody who specializes in suicide, helping people out with suicide. They're a suicide psychologist or whatever kind of mental doctor that is. And they typically have a call a day, and they're averaging about 5 a day right now, and that's in LA, in California. How about homicide? We have 277 homicides in 2018 and 264 in 2017. That's a lot. That's a lot of people killing each other. We didn't shut the economy down for that one. How about just undetermined? We don't really know what caused this person's death. You got 88 in 2018. How about unintentional? Person died, nobody's fault, they just kind of died. 3,416 people died unintentionally. Do we shut the economy down for that? God, there's a lot of people dying unintentionally. This is something else. I don't know. They're just unintentionally dying. Do we shut it down? No. How about drowning? 144. How about falling down? How about the movie Falling Down with Michael Douglas? That was an epic movie. Got fired, and he just kind of went mental and started taking people out. That's what you're going to start seeing if businesses don't get opened up here soon. So falling, 1,099 deaths. So do we shut down the economy for people falling down and dying? No, we don't. So we just kind of keep on going. We're used to all of these death factors. Firearms caused 817 deaths in 2018 and 845 in 2017. Firearms. Do we outlaw guns? Oh, man, no. Our Second Amendment rights declare because of the militia, we should be able to keep our guns. It's the United States, we kill a lot of people with our guns, but we got to be able to keep them, right? It's our constitutional right. I don't know how I feel on that one. I have a bunch of guns, but I never shoot them. And I don't know. Handguns, I'm a no-go because they're just for killing people. Rifles, hunting animals, I get that. Or shotguns, yeah, shoot a duck or a goose. That seems okay with me. But handguns, they're just for killing people. Try and shoot a duck with a handgun. Not going to happen. So how about there are 45,000, some specific type of car wreck each year. And all the way up to, there was another statistics of car wrecks. There's like 126,000 car wrecks, which encompassed a big number. You've got people on the road getting in wrecks every single day. Some of them getting injured and a lot of them getting killed, but we don't shut down the economy based on that. All of these deaths are significant. A lot of them are over 1,000 a year. But we don't shut the economy down. So why'd we shut the economy down on this one? Well, because initially we thought we could kill a couple of million Americans. We could kill millions over the entire population of the world. That didn't happen, did it? The numbers are different. So we went from, all right, we're going to shut it down because we don't know what we're going to do, till we're going to keep it shut down until we get a vaccine. That's where I'm like, hey, I'm out. I'm no longer in this together with all of you. I'm out. I'm going to go do my own thing. And I think that's what a lot of people are doing is we're not in this together. Look at the data. The data doesn't really support all being in this together. The data supports, let's get this show on the road, going back to work. Let's start resuming normal life. One of my big things that I've been harping on is gyms. And so I'm working out in a gym that's open. And am I afraid to touch the weights? No, absolutely not. Because I'm healthy. I'm in an age demographic that even if I get the coronavirus, the odds are so statistically low that anything's going to happen to me. Maybe I get sick. Yeah. But I've been around dozens and dozens of guys. I'm touching all kinds of equipment, weights. Do I wash my hands afterwards? Yeah, I do. Do I try and not touch my mouth? Sure. Yeah. Just be smart about it. But you don't need to have plastic shields. You don't need to have masks. We're not wearing anything. And that's just kind of how it goes. And there's a lot of areas of society where that is going on. So this whole social distancing thing to me is kind of a load of garbage. Because if you look at societies, and I did an entire podcast on what happened with Sweden, they said, you know what? We're going to shut down our museums and we're going to do a couple other things. We're going to socially distance maybe a little bit, but not really much. And yeah, did they have more people die? Yeah, but it was only like a couple thousand more than their neighbors next door, Denmark, Holland, and Finland, I think it was. And they didn't have that many more deaths. They had some more cases, but they also have a much bigger population than a couple of those countries. So to say that all this social distancing and things have really worked, I think it's worked against people, and people's immune systems have been lowered. You're sitting at home, you're freaking out, you're not getting out, you're not subjecting yourself to stuff in the outside world. When you go back into the outside world, yeah, you might get sick. You're going to have probably a ton of people who get sick because they've been sitting at home and they're all worked up and their immune systems are down. How come we haven't heard a lot of talk about how to strengthen your immune system? Why haven't we done that? Why haven't we talked about that? We talk about washing our hands and not having the bug come into us, but how do we make our immune system stronger? That's a conversation that should be happening right now. So, people should be able to strengthen themselves. Open up the gyms. So I'm hearing, commercial gyms in Washington, maybe June 6th or July 6th. Heard from a gym owner, maybe September, October, kind of depending on who you believe, but there is no reason they can't open up right now because some of them are open and they're doing fine and they are providing a service that we really need. Do you hear a lot about the big outbreaks from those gyms? No. Do you hear about the massive outbreaks from states that are reopened? No. Do they have cases that are increasing? Yeah. They do, but is it dramatically increasing where you're like, oh my gosh, that's just killing off a ton of people? No, the cases are going up because people are circulating. And maybe that's something we need to really look at. And that's my whole herd immunity concept, which Sweden did and Georgia's kind of done to a certain extent. Their cases were going up. They set people back into the wild and let them run around. I don't think socially distancing is the answer. That's kind of my thought. I don't think it really has much to do with a virus that runs around that's super contagious. I think a ton more people will have had it when we get all said and done with this. But what we do know is that it impacts the old and it impacts people who already have pre-existing conditions. So if you're young and you want to go to the gym, you should be able to. If you're old or if you're impacted already, stay at home. Same thing with the workforce. Let the rest of us go back to work. But don't make it so ratcheted down that we've basically lost our freedom. And that's kind of my point, is that you got to allow people to make their own choices and to figure things out. You can't tell us, hey, you got to do this, or this business is open and this business isn't, because none of this is based on science. Even the 6 foot rule, 6 foot social distancing, what is that based on? Is that the average height of a United States human being? I don't know. No, I don't think so. It's a lot shorter than that. What's it from? We don't know. Now, we do know that washing our hands, yeah, that gets rid of some germs. And, don't sneeze on other people. That makes sense. But the rest of it is just kind of like the plastic shields and wearing the mask. I don't know. I understand that it reduces some of the, breathing on people, but there's just no way to eliminate that in society, especially in the workforce. So now you've got people who have been isolated at home. You're going to send them back into a work environment where you've got a whole bunch of people. And I did an entire podcast on what it's going to take for professional offices to operate. And my conclusion is that if you basically followed all the safety protocol, that you wouldn't get any work done. You would just be running around worried about being safe from the coronavirus. And even more so with the health or with the hairstylist industry, whatever that is. Can't remember what that is. What's the category there? Their safety protocols are super onerous. Like, you got to wash down all your equipment, your station, restroom after each customer. I mean, it's crazy over the top. If you want to check out that podcast, you can. But it's almost impossible to operate within the confines of what we've got here. And my belief is that we will have a second outbreak. And so let us go back to work right now. So by the time the second outbreak happens, it'll be before the flu season, and we won't get hammered all at once. So we've had wave 1, and that happened, late 2019, early 2020. We can't stay under shutdown forever because the government basically works off of tax dollars, right? That's created by businesses. It's the only thing that runs the government. Government doesn't create any money of its own. It's all based on taxes, and taxes have to come from small businesses. Right now, you've got economies all over the world still shut down. And I think a lot of those economies are going to go, oh, you know what? The impact wasn't enough to warrant having these economies shut down. Doesn't make sense. We really destroyed our economy over a few deaths. And that might sound heartless, but that is kind of the dead truth, is that we've got a lot of deaths going on anyway, and you're going to have to deal with going back into a work environment, going into a restaurant, and not worrying about the coronavirus, because you can't do much about it anyway. You can't stay home forever. A consumer society is not going to operate that way. It's just not going to. It's going to completely fall apart if you think that we can stay home much longer and really just flatten the curve. That's just not reality. So if you want to stay home, you can, but I won't. Let's look at some of the real pandemics. So right now we've got 319,000 worldwide deaths from the coronavirus. So starting back with the Black Death, the bubonic plague, and that's 1347 to 1351. Those are the years. That took out 200 million people. That is a real pandemic. Coronavirus, not. All right, smallpox took out 56 million people versus 319,000 so far. The third plague, which I had never really heard of, and that was in 1855, that took out 12 million people. Coronavirus, 319,000. Spanish flu, 40 to 50 million people. It's in 1918. Did we shut the economy down then? No, we didn't. Russian flu, 1 million people. That was in 1889 to 1890. I mean, the coronavirus might get there, but that's on the smaller end of a pandemic, of a real pandemic. Swine flu took out 200,000 people. That was in 2009 through 2010. Did we shut the economy down then? No. I mean, we're going to come up on doubling that here soon, but why didn't we shut down the economy for the swine flu? Didn't happen. Are we that afraid of a pandemic that takes out the elderly and people with pre-existing conditions? Apparently we are. So how about the Hong Kong flu? 1.1 million. That was in 1968 when I was born. So 1968 through 1970. Hong Kong flu took out 1.1 million. I don't think we shut down the economy then, because I would have heard about that. My dad would have said, oh yeah, shut the economy down. And we've never shut it down. That doesn't happen. We've become soft. That's the bottom line. Bunch of softies. So the impact to the American people going on right now, some of the economies are opening up, some of others are struggling to open up. And the faster we get those economies going, the faster people are going to realize the coronavirus isn't something to be afraid of. Yeah, it's out there, but like so much in life, you can't be afraid of everything. If you want to stay at home and be afraid, that's your call. That's your choice. But for the rest of us who want to get back and get going based on 1,000 deaths in the state of Washington, we should have that right. So right now you've got 4.1 million Americans who are in mortgage forbearance. They cannot pay their mortgage and they are looking to have a number of months where they don't have to pay. So 4.1 million people, 8.1% of mortgages out there are in forbearance. And I did an entire podcast on the implications of that with the way the servicing goes, mortgage servicing, and how local economies are basically not going to have the tax dollars from the real estate taxes. You got people not making their payments. Taxes aren't going to get paid. Guess what? Government budgets are just going to get slashed. You're starting to see that already. And one of the things I think that you're going to see is that the states who are holding out reopening, they're going to ask for bigger money than the other states that have already reopened, because the sooner you open up an economy, the sooner you start generating tax dollars. And so those states who aren't open, they're going to need more money because this is impacting them longer. Because every day that goes by, you are having more and more businesses who don't have the cash burn to make this go, and they're going to have to close up shop forever. And you're seeing a ton of that already. And if you don't understand those dynamics, it's probably because you've never been a business owner, or you don't study economics, or you simply don't care. And that's okay. You don't have to care. A lot of people out there are employees, and they do get it. So it kind of goes both ways. There are also business owners who are like, man, I don't want to open up my business quite yet because I don't think it's safe. But the sooner we jump in, the sooner you kind of rip off that Band-Aid and we make this go, because you can't stay shut down for much longer without some enormous consequences long term. And the consequences I'm talking about are in 6 months, when a lot of these businesses realize, you know what, we tried to reopen up and we really can't. Or people come off unemployment and go, okay, that was a good run. I made some good money not working, but now it's go time. Oh, this job landscape is really difficult. This is not going to be an easy time to find a job. That's my concern right there as a small business owner, is the impact it has to the overall food chain of businesses out there. We've got 33.5 million people who claimed unemployment in the last, I think it's 6 weeks. And that's out of 164 million Americans that are counted in the employment databases. That's an enormous number. Just a ton of people are claiming unemployment right now because the economies aren't going. So based on our 1,000 deaths, is that worth not having a ton of people working? No, it's simply not. The science and the data don't make any sense. The numbers don't add up. We started off thinking this was going to be horrible. Well, it's not. It's just simply not. And so it's time to reevaluate and take a hard look at the numbers and go, okay, yep, we will probably have a second swing around of the coronavirus, but we kind of already know what it does, right? And it's not that bad. 1,000 deaths in Washington. That doesn't justify shutting down an economy. And when we're all said and done, you're going to see unemployment rate, people think, could be as high as 20, could be as high as 25%. So greater than the Great Depression, greater than the Great Recession. And what are we doing about it right now? Are we staying home, staying safe? Yeah, but you're also destroying an economy that doesn't need to be destroyed. That's my opinion. So let's get back to work. So for states who are slowly reopening, let's speed that process up. If you've got a 3-week schedule, let's make it 3 weeks. And let's not banter about on what the science and the data are, because 1,001 deaths, that's not enough to shut down an economy. So those are my thoughts on where we sit right now. Some people aren't going to like this podcast. Other people are going to love it. And so I would love, if you're watching this on YouTube, love to have you comment in the comment section. Let me know what you think, because I've got a lot of people around me going, man, why are we still even partially shut down? Washington's in phase 1. We're looking to go to phase 2, which is when restaurants would and barbershops and beauty salons would kind of open up. And then gyms and a bunch of other movie theaters and that kind of stuff is in phase 3. We're hoping to see that sooner than later. And with 1,000 deaths, and I keep harping on that. I don't understand why we're not open already. All right, so that is my tirade on the coronavirus and why businesses should be opened up immediately. Just my opinion, but it is my podcast. So thanks so much for listening on the podcast platform. Thanks so much for watching on the YouTube. Again, I'm Sean Reynolds from Summit Properties Northwest, Reynolds and Kline Appraisal. I'll catch you in the next one. Thanks again for watching and listening. Bye. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and hit the notification bell so you'll know when our next video is out.